When were parents given the right to take their kids out of sex education lessons? The answer was 1996.
That's right, parents were given the right to take their kids out of school as part of the 1996 Education Act. You're watching The Right Stuff. We've got Christopher Biggins here, Gail Porter and James Cracknell. Catch him with Ben Fogle in On Thin Ice this Sunday night at 9 on BBC Two. Still to come on this show, should fake rape victims pay damages to the men they falsely accused of attacking them? If you had been falsely accused, you'd probably say, yeah, I want compensation, I want to sue them. What about the greater good? 95% of genuine victims, rape victims, don't come forward as it is, would worrying that they might get hit by a compensation claim should they lose their case improve matters. 0207 173 5555 is the number for your thoughts. First, though, sex education for all children in schools, no exceptions. That's what a number of experts, including the Brooks Sexual Advice Charity, want. No more taking kids out for personal or religious reasons. How else can we ensure, they argue, that every youngster in the land will get a decent grounding in the facts of life? And this is all kind of relevant to what's going to happen in 2 years' time, when a major overhaul of sex education will hit primary schools. Kids aged 5 to 7 will learn about the differences between boys and girls. 7 to 9-year-olds will be taught about puberty and relationships, while 9 to 11-year-olds will be taught all about hiding the sausage. The overhaul is designed to tackle soaring levels of STIs and record rates of teen pregnancy. But when you consider that only 4 out of every 10,000 parents choose to withdraw their kids from sex education classes at present, is there any point in removing this option? You're not telling me the progeny of those 4 parents in 10,000 are blamed for all the STIs and teen pregnancies in the land. They quite clearly aren't. And there are some mums and dads who feel very, very strongly that it's their job to teach their kids about the birds and the bees. But then, if you let schools teach your kids about sums and English and joggers, why not about bodies, puberty and whatnot? OK, well, you were a teacher. You'll start with you, James.
Well, it's a hard thing to teach, I think. I remember that as a pupil when, I can't really remember having it when I was younger, but when we were 13 or 14, the teacher found it as embarrassing as we found it amusing.
I think that's why they're starting younger. And this is very much how it works in Holland. Although in Holland, parents are allowed to withdraw their kids. And Holland, of course, is the place that has the lowest rate of teen pregnancy in Western Europe. So we're kind of aping their system, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's... when you're taught anything, you want to teach it young and then just reinforce it and reinforce it all the way up. And it's not a conversation that I'm that looking forward to having with my little boy. Luckily, my wife's a patron of the Family Planning Association, so she's taken that mantle on already, so I'm kind of off the hook on that.
If you felt strongly, I mean, there are people out there with very strong religious beliefs. There are people who have no beliefs whatsoever, but feel very strongly that it's their job to impart that kind of personal, social information. Should they lose the right to withdraw their children?
It's your religious views, not your children's religious views. That's what you never know what they're going to be like in 20 years' time. I'm less religious than my parents, and they're less religious than their parents were. So you can't impose your views on your kids in this area.
So you say withdraw the right?
I would say withdraw the right and teach what you want. Yeah, I mean you've got to prepare people for society, and religion is less part of society now than it was a generation ago, and I'm sure that'll be the same in a generation's time.
But for that small percentage that you said who withdraw,
4 out of 10,000.
Why bother making it a law? Why bother?
Well, that's
I think it's great that we have sex education in schools, at those different stages. But if there are these few people, let them do it their own way by doing it at home. Don't. I think it's just, once again, the government making these absurd, extraordinary rules.
To be fair, it's being driven by the Brooks service, which is, I would say it was a fairly progressive, progressive, liberal-driven charity. I think it's a good charity. And it's just the logic of it. In one sense, if it's for all children, it should be for all children, no exceptions. But then for 4 out of 10,000, is it worth shifting the balance? Because I don't believe the children of those 4 in 10,000 are responsible for all the problems. So I don't know. What about you, Gail? Would you have a problem one way or the other?
Right, I'm with you. I mean, I think all children should have sex education at school, but I agree with you. I mean, what's the point in changing it if it is that
for that tiny
number? But no, I think, it's belt and braces. I'm also going to teach my daughter the facts about life, and then, she's learning it at school. there's both of us, and we can all talk about it together. It's really important, and there's so many STDs these days. It's much, you know, and so many teen pregnancies. You know, they're on the other side right now on a different channel.
Will you tempt
Right now, awaiting DNA results.
Will you tempt her with £10 for the
The bottom line is it's not right at the moment because we have such high STDs compared to other countries in Europe and such high teen pregnancies, so it should be changed. And this is a bit of a red herring.
But it's so few people that do withdraw their children. All I imagine is, if, say, the law is changed, all you're going to have then are people with religious backgrounds and perhaps people from secular backgrounds with very strong feelings about how that sex education will be taught, challenging the government, challenging educational authorities in court, loads of money wasted, loads of effort, lots of diversion from the actual effort, which is to try and reduce STIs and teen pregnancy. I don't know. I don't know.
I do think they should be younger, though. I do think they should start young.
Well,
by the time I got to 16, I thought you could still get pregnant if you put sperm on your tights.
Yeah.
I never went near anybody. Seriously, I had no idea what was
If my niece is watching, that is true. Don't you forget it. Let's throw it open to you. Is it worth having a blanket rule? Change the law so there is one rule for all, or should we just allow these 4 in 10,000 to continue withdrawing their children if they so wish? What do people say, Kirsty?
I've got mixed views here. First, we've got Emma on line 3.
Morning, Emma.
Good morning. I think that parents should remain having the right to withdraw their children. I will actually withdraw my child in the future because he's been totally traumatised by a recent lesson at age 9. He's quite immature for his age. He's a Year 5 pupil. He's in the lower age range of that year group. And he was traumatised by a film and a comic which was aimed at teenagers. It covered puberty, but in a very graphic way. They talked about stiffies. They showed pictures of big penises spewing forth sperm right, left and centre. He came home worried that he was going to be wet in the bed. There were pictures of boys looking at girls saying, oh, I'm going to have a wet dream, hiding their stiffy under their bag. I didn't like the language.
Okay. Whoa. I'm feeling traumatised.
I'm joining that school.
This must be a mistake on behalf of the school, wasn't it, Emma?
Well, the school, ironically, is a Church of England school, and they
As a Catholic, I'm not surprised by that at all, Emma.
Version. And it was presented by a school nurse, and the local authority have denied any responsibility whatsoever.
OK, Emma, let's, if you can,
yeah.
Although I can understand why you might not feel able to do so, if you can, let's put aside bad lessons, bad teachers.
Yeah.
Overall, let's say every teacher gets special education, special training, they become as good at imparting this information as Dutch teachers obviously are.
It was a school nurse, actually, who did it. It was a nurse who did it.
OK, a nurse. Well, let's say we get experts in there and we achieve what they've achieved in Holland. Would that persuade you otherwise to
No, these are experts. This is the sort of stuff the government is legislating that they want taught in schools. You're being very naive on your programme when you're talking about liberal changes and so on and so forth. You are not in control of the way
I have seen the books
that... The way it's being presented is
Emma, I've seen the books that kids are supposed to be seeing at these different stages through primary, and they are not supposed to see what your son saw.
Well,
There's no doubt about it.
in front of me. I've got a copy of it in front of me.
God,
and it shows pictures of boys on a school bus looking out of the window, and it says, oh, cool, she's nice. I could have a wet dream about her. Wet dreams? Do you have them? Yeah, boys do it. It's perfectly okay. I was embarrassed about my stiffy. They've got graphic pictures of women's female parts showing clitoris, outer lips, inner lips, all the rest of it. He actually found it too much. And
I'm not surprised, but I also don't believe that was the right book. I think there's been a mistake. I really do, because that doesn't line up with the books that I have seen that are supposed to be going to primary schools. In fact, some of them have got them now. I know people don't agree with it, but there were some brilliant books explaining homosexuality, that not every relationship involves a man and a woman. And I thought they were wonderful, the stuff I saw. I really did. I thought very progressive, very positive, not going to turn the nation into any worse, into the depths of nymphomania than we already are, I suppose.
It seems to be dominated by men working with boy groups. This was developed by a group of teenage boys and people working within the local authority.
For teenagers, I think it'd be fine. I really do. I mean, that's like the book I got from my dad, although I was actually quite a bit younger. Thinking about it. Emma, thank you. Thank you. Worrying call. Let's have another, please.
Kerry's a school teacher and she's on line 2.
Kerry, good morning.
Hello.
Did you hear much of our previous caller there, Kerry?
I certainly did, yes.
That isn't what I was expecting 9-year-old children to be given.
Absolutely is not. That
Right,
is
okay.
Certainly, I mean, I'm actually a secondary teacher, and that is more the material that you would be giving to
Right.
the sort of, you know, the older ones. That's certainly what you would be giving to a primary teacher.
She makes a point by default, though, don't you think? Which is, if you can't guarantee the standard of the teaching, if you can't guarantee you're going to get the right material to the right kids at the right age, then surely that some parents will have strong views about this should have the right to withdraw their children.
Well, I think it's the responsibility of the school to make sure the right people are teaching it to them for a start, and certainly not, you know, a nurse. I mean, my view on it personally is that I think every child that going to a school in this country has the right to have the education fully, you know, that is available to them on sex education and the way it is done, you know, in terms of obviously the biological side of things, but also the responsibility in terms of the contraceptive side of things, the sexually transmitted diseases side of things, how to protect themselves against.
But what harm? What harm?
The relationship side of things.
But what harm if only 4 out of 10,000 parents, 2 out of 5,000, 1 in every couple of thousand wants to withdraw their children? What harm?
Absolutely. The thing is, my problem with this is actually that it depends in what area of the population, in terms of, you know, is this mainly religious side of the population? Because, I mean, I've worked in quite a few different types of schools, and where you have very religious beliefs, that is where you tend to get parents who don't want their child.
This is James's point, isn't it? This is James's point. Don't impose your religion on your children, and it's a strong one, I have to say.
Absolutely, and the thing is, the children need to have reinforced what they are taught at school by their parents. The parent has absolutely every responsibility themselves of reinforcing what the children are taught at school with every subject, not just with sex education.
And if parents feel that their children should remain children for as long as possible and don't need to be tainted by the hideous realities of adult sexuality, isn't that a parent's right to keep their children children if they want to?
But then, how are we having children who are becoming pregnant at 11 and 12 years old?
But yeah, I'm just not sure that those that object, that withdraw their children, are the parents of children that are driving the statistics up. I'm sure that some do, but I don't know. Kerry, thank you. We'll have to leave it there and take a break, I'm afraid. It's really interesting, though, really interesting. After the break, and I'd like to say it doesn't follow on nicely, but we are talking about sex assault. Should women who make false claims of rape pay damages to their victims? And again, my gut instinct immediately says yes, but I think it's more complicated than that. 95% of genuine victims don't come forward because of fears over how they'll be treated. So the threat of having to pay compensation if their case was to collapse, if they were somehow to be made out as liars, isn't going to improve matters. Sure, you'd only have to pay if it was a malicious claim, a false claim, but won't that then become the man's first line of defence? 0207 173 5555 is the number for your thoughts, and we'll hear as many as we can after the break.
According to the Home Office, what percentage of rape claims are dismissed by the police and receive no further attention? 5, 15 or 25%?